EFCC has been so quick in doing this. Ebola Tinubu carried bullion van in cash at the eve of an election publicly, and the EFCC has not even had the temerity.
Ó ti fún Tinubu jẹ́ ó ti replay Jagaban ayé mi o Ọlọ́run tó bá wo fídíò yìí. It is very interesting. I want you to watch this video. Oh my God, ọ̀rọ̀ rẹ̀ yé ó ti fún bàbá ní sáìtì ẹ̀ yáì ó ti fún Jaka òdì ní sáìtì ẹ̀ ọmọ gbọ́ fídíò yẹn jọjájọ watch it.
The general of the P2B presidential campaign was a convicted criminal. How is the campaign and the Labour Party reacting to that ineluctable, inescapable fact?
Oh, well, having read and listened to your submissions before now, I am of the opinion that you have not read the judgment. Because if you have read the judgment, you wouldn't have the same opinion.
It wasn't my opinion.
No, I said the judgment. I'm talking now as a lawyer.
Right.
First of all, the whole aim of the Money Laundering Act was to facilitate the implementation of the recommendation of the Financial Action Joint Task Force on anti-money laundering and combating terrorism. Doyin Okupe was not found guilty on corruption. He was not found guilty on stealing. He was not found guilty on misappropriation of funds. He was not found guilty on terrorism. He was not found guilty on money laundering. The judge actually used the adjectival phrase, honest mistake. Meaning that Doyin Okupe, when he was the special senior assistant to the president, accepted money in excess of what the individual is allowed by Section 2(1) of the Money Laundering Act, which limited it to 5 million to individual, 10 million to a corporate body. He accepted money from the office of the National Security Advisor on the authority of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Doyin Okupe simply went to the president and told him the money he needed to use to run his office, and it was approved that he should come under the National Security Advisor, and he was accepting the money from the National Security Advisor, and the vouchers were there. That was why the judge reached the inescapable conclusion that it was an honest mistake. Why was it an honest mistake? Because it is an infringement on a law that has strict liability. In other words, your intention is irrelevant. So the actus reus of the element of the crime is that he accepted money. But here is the catch. The law said individual or corporate body. The law has not definitely said when you're acting in your capacity as the senior special assistant to the president, when you're acting in your office, not in your individual person, are you guilty? The learned judge has delivered his judgment. They are on appeal to talk on that particular issue, because Doyin Okupe acted in his capacity as the senior special assistant to the president, not in his individual capacity. And that is why the judge made it clear, look, you are not corrupt by any means, but is it not gratifying that when it has to do with Labour Party, we talk about honesty, even in the mistake? What do you compare it with the other parties? Permit me to move into...
Well, but before we get into the other parts, let's kind of clear the air, because this is hanging over the Labour Party, and let's not deflect attention from it, even though your explanation at the outset appears to be, and I emphasize the word appears to have elements of plausibility to it, but the fact remains that Doyin Okupe has been convicted of a crime for which he could have gone to jail for 2 years, and for which he has ostensibly paid a fine.
Good. I want to let you know that even in that act, when you go to the bank, you have the choice of collecting cash in excess of the limits of the law. The only thing is that you have to voluntarily pay the fine associated with it. So when the judge was giving him an option of fine, it's actually what the law allows. Because if I go to law, to the court, if I go to the bank, I can collect money in excess of the cash allowed. But I would just need to pay the fine. That's why I'm telling you that there's no corruption here.
Yeah, but you have to be. Let's just be clear on this. We're not trying to make a meal out of it.
No,
we want to be very clear on what happened and what the implications.
Good.
are.
Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
The sentencing is you should pay fine because you have exceeded
the
limit.
Given an option.
No. That's what I'm saying. Put it this way: you should pay fine because you exceeded the limit. In default of paying the fine, you will go to jail for 2 years.
Right. Well, that's
good. And you know the beauty of it.
I mean,
you know, Kupe, being a classical honorable man, even when there was no corruption issue against him, he still resigned. You don't find such honorable men in Nigeria.
Well, the point I'm trying to make,
they are limited in supply.
But when you say he resigned, I mean, was he pushed or did he?
No, he wasn't. We are in New York doing our rally. No meeting has been held over this issue. The principal simply said he's moving on without distraction. Who will push him? No. The court has already told you. This is not about corruption. This is not about misappropriation of funds.
No, but can I?
This is not about stealing.
But can I make a point here? Because if you talk about 5 million naira and 10 million naira, that's a long way away from more than 700 million naira.
No, that's where you got it wrong.
Well, that's the point we're trying to clarify.
Good. No, it was like the cumulative. It was broken into. It's just like saying in a month you're entitled to receive 10 million.
But he wasn't getting 10 million naira, was he? He was getting much more than that.
No. I'm just explaining to you what happened. It's like I need 10 million naira to run my office monthly. And remember, the law is that you won't collect more than 5 million in cash. Get the point? So each month he collects any money more than 5 million in cash, he has offended.
Yeah, but why did he have to
collect
it in cash
in any so many.
But why did he have to collect it in cash? I don't understand.
You have just brought me to the issue while we are talking that PDP is very incompetent. Because that happened in PDP regime. You can imagine a party that could not even educate its officers at that level. The legal implications of what they are doing. Doyin Okupe is not a lawyer. That is why the judge is saying, sorry, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. He's not a lawyer. Kenneth is. PDP could not even educate its officers at that high level. That is why people should avoid the living of the PDP. Jesus Christ warned his disciples, avoid the living of the Pharisees. Everybody should avoid anything that has to do with such a party that is so incompetent and so incoherent in the implementation of its policies. That's why Okupe got into problem. You hired people, you do not train them on the consequences of the law. You gave them cash yourself. They simply accepted it. They did what you told them to do by law and by the authority of the president, and then you are bringing them to law. But it's important we point out this. EFCC has been so quick in doing this. Ebola Tinubu carried bullion van in cash at the eve of an election publicly. And the EFCC has not even had the temerity of investigating that and asking him questions. Do you know what he used bullion van for? Tinubu has openly confessed what he uses it for. He said to his followers, power is not served a la carte. Power is not served in a restaurant during breakfast. You fight for it at all costs. You snatch it, you grab it, you run with it. What do you fight for? What do you grab? Ballot boxes. That's what he uses the bullion van for. The cash openly. Nobody has even investigated that. And APC had the temerity of choosing such a man to be the APC presidential candidate.
So based on what
don't you think it's time that he resigns?
Well, it's not for me to express my own opinion. But based on what you're saying, you're a lawyer. Is there any way that this case can be seen, this Doyin Okupe case, as politically motivated, or is it a scrupulously clear case where the law has been properly applied to the facts?
Good. You know, one of the 7 points agenda that my principal has is restructuring the polity through effective legal and institutional reforms that will aggressively fight corruption, reduce cost of governance, entrench rule of law, and ensure the establishment of an honest and efficient civil service. And so when it comes to rule of law, my principle has zero tolerance to any breach of the law, no matter how small.
Right.
That is why I'm not here. That is why I'm not here to defend my DG. Right. I'm here to explain facts.
Right. So you'd recognize that there is
what
a breach
I am telling
of the law
you,
there. Right.
As long as the law is concerned, they are on appeal. And when you're on appeal, the judgment is regarded as preliminary, subject to the decision of the appeal court.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to tell you that in Labour Party, our aim, which is a new Nigerian personality that will be transparent and committed to the rule of law, would not allow us to do anything that would suggest that we will support anything that has to do with the breach of law. If you go to page 13 of our manifesto, you will see where my principal made an express commitment to swiftly, firmly, and fairly prosecute criminals, bandits, terrorists, to end impunity. What you're having in Nigeria now is impunity because of lack of these processes. My principal has made it clear that he is going to give fair and transparent dispensation of justice hinged on rule of law. Page 13 of our manifesto, the best manifesto so far. Now, coming to lay political ambush. This is what this is. Why? This case started 2018, and then for 4 years, the EFCC could not reach judgment, and on the eve of election, you're coming with a judgment.
So you think it's politically motivated?
Let's say it is a political ambush. Good. You know, if you do the right thing, if you have been following American politics, you will agree with me that 6 months to the time, any politically sensitive case is suspended until after the election. That is the convention there. Has this been followed here? So it's a political ambush. But you know what? No, we don't have anything to worry, because the best they have gotten is that the man made an honest mistake. But look at PDP. We have President Obasanjo, who happened to be the only principal that Atiku Abubakar ever served on as a political appointee. He said Atiku Abubakar is one of the most corrupt human beings on earth. The only principal that can appraise him. And you know what is happening? Wike said Ayo is the most corrupt national chairman on record. He said he collects billions of naira.
Yeah.
Good. And that Atiku is aware of it. Has he resigned? So when you talk about comparison, the worst of Labour Party is still better than the best of PDP and APC combined.
But you do know that there is, I mean, you've talked quite volubly about the court of law and
yes,
the processes of the law. But you know that there are two things here, particularly because we're in a political season. There is the law courts, which specialists like yourself are more familiar with, and then there's the court of public opinion.
Absolutely.
Can the P2B carefully constructed edifice remain standing and unscathed after this Donyokupe calamity? Is it powerful enough, that edifice, to withstand what some have called a cratering shock?
By the combined effects of the actions of Doyin and P2B and Labour Party, this incident has actually promoted and rocketed us to the enviable position of the number one. Now, a court of law used the adjectival phrase honest mistake, and yet Doyin, without pressure from anybody, resigned. Have you seen that from PDP? Have you seen that from APC? You see, P2B is still the only option. Labour Party is still the only option. And Doyin Okupe, bless him, has done one thing that is very scarce in the Nigerian society. So this particular event has really set a record that PDP and APC are now frightened, because we will ask them how many of them have resigned. I just gave you an example of Ayu, that a governor in PDP said he's the worst and the most corrupt national chairman, and has vowed that Ayu will never lead a campaign in his state. Has Ayo resigned? Look at that. And I've told you that Bola Tinubu openly carried bullion van. Bullion van is used to carry cash from one bank to the other. But he carried it at the eve of election. And yet, APC considered such a man to be their presidential candidate. No. People like that deserve the prison, not the presidency.
Yeah, but their argument would be that if you have the evidence against him, why don't you file a charge or file a complaint with the EFCC?
I have said this. You don't use oral evidence to contradict objective reality. The bullion van was there for everybody to see, and the man was not denying it. The picture was there for everybody to see on that same day. As a matter of fact, he defended it, that it was his money, and he has the right to use it anyhow. And he has told you what he used the money for, like I told you. He said, fight for power at all costs. Snatch it. Run with it. Grab it. That's what he uses the cash in the bullion van to do.
But the problem here...
You know what my principal says? He would prefer to lose doing the right thing.
Right.
To doing the wrong thing and winning.
Yeah, well, that's what, whether it's your candidate or any other candidate, that's what we hope the candidates will do and adopt. But the problem here is that Mr. B has, as you yourself have said, presented himself as a break with those same previous leaders that you were talking about.
Very well.
Who are associated by, association with things like corruption or irregularities, let's put it that way. So however you spin it, this is likely to deal a major blow to Mr. Obi because Mr. Kube was one of his key allies.
Those are your words, not even the words of the court.
Well, I'm putting, that's why I said there's a court of public opinion. We're not talking about the courts, we're talking about the public are going to, the court isn't going to vote for him. The public are going to vote in 2023.
Now you will even have better point when you're talking about court of law. When you're talking about court of public opinion, can't you see the beauty that the person you can even compare in LP with the other presidential candidates is our DG? Meaning that P2B is not only that he's not corrupt, he's incorruptible. And so he's not comparable with the presidential candidates of the other parties. So whenever you're talking about corruption, you just have to look down for people who can make honest mistakes just because human beings are not God. But when you talk about corruption, the Oba of Bini looked at my principle and said, your integrity goes before you. My principle is a man that wouldn't even accept a lot of land that is due to him as a former governor. He wouldn't even accept pension due for him. Lagos State used its own liaison office here in Abuja to compensate Tinubu after being governor, after they made the elaborate pension scheme law. So can you compare? No, you don't compare my principle with Atiku or Tinubu. When you talk about anything that is misappropriation, you can say that some people in Labour have made honest mistake by the judgment of the court. Have you ever seen honesty added to those two gentlemen? Go to the court of public opinion. You wouldn't find it. A Tinubu and Atiku. Atiku will go to the north and tell the northerners, please, vote only the north. And he will go to the east and say, I am your surest way to the presidency. A man who publicly admitted that is the turn of the south is to present the next president. And he usurped forcefully and by monetary inducement. Don't take my words for it. Take the words of Hayatuddin, a presidential aspirant of PDP for it. He said the PDP primary was obscenely monetized. So when a man like that who bought his own ticket by the confession of them, remember what my principal did? He said PDP is now a stumbling block to his aspiration for a new Nigeria, and that was why he left. So do you compare such a manipulator and then such an intimidator in Tinubu, who will tell you if anybody says there will be a change of government, tell the person shut up, who will tell you mentioning the name of Funke Akindele irritates him, an intimidator. So my principle is an inspirator. He will tell you, don't vote for me because I'm Igbo. vote for me because I'm a man of character, competence, and capacity.
Well,
it is the turn of Nigerians in 2023, not the turn of anybody. An inspirator in 2023, we will not succumb to the blackmail of intimidators and manipulate. Vote wisely for P2B.
Let's stay with that theme, because the issue here, beyond whether or not he's been tarred by the brush of corruption or irregularities or whatever, is this issue here is a question of his judgment. Judgment is absolutely key to being in a preeminent political position such as that of a president. And the question that's being asked is, Mr. Obi must have known that Mr. Okupe was on trial for these charges and that he could well be convicted, but he still took him as his campaign director general. What does that say about Mr. Obi's judgment?
Presumed innocent until proved guilty. Secondly, in the law and constitution, I'm quoting, it is only when you commit a crime that is based on dishonesty, corruption, that you are not allowed to hold political offices. You don't go to commit just a traffic crime and somebody will say you won't hold political office. I told you that the judge exonerated 100% by the judgment of the court.
Well, he couldn't have exonerated him, he convicted.
No, that's why I'm telling you that he exonerated him from dishonesty, from corruption, from misapplication and misappropriation of funds. That is the judgment of the court, and you will take time to read it.
Yeah, but the judgment
the judge was
explicit.
Is
very clear
that
he's
he accepted money. Good, that he accepted money in excess of the limitation of the law. That is all. And it was not even by his own making. He was given money. The offense is that when you make or accept, haven't you asked yourself, why is it that the person that made that payment to him has not been prosecuted? Can you help me with the answer?
Why is it that what, sorry?
The person that made the payment to him has not been prosecuted.
Well, I mean, Dasuki was... he went through all the rigmarole of the legal rigmarole, didn't he? Has
he been found guilty?
He went through a lot of things.
Good. APC and the PDP in the dispensation of justice, you are taking one arm who received unknowingly, and you're saying he's guilty, and the person that gave, you did not even contemplate prosecuting him. What kind of leadership is that? What kind of injustice is that? In Labour Party, it would not happen. Take my words for it. This is a new Nigeria we're fighting for. I'll give you one word. A sin against my principle personally will be forgiven. He's a philosopher. But a sin against the emergence of a new Nigeria, free of corruption, free of insecurity, free of poverty, free of bad leadership in 2023 will not be forgiven. It will be roundly fought and defeated. We're having problems in this country, not because of the violence of the bad people, but because of the silence of the good ones. Enough. We are not going to keep silent. Professor Wole Soyinka made it clear that the man died in the man who keeps silent in terms of moral crisis. That is why our nation is dying. Fela Nicola Pukuti said suffering and smiling. Nigerians have been suffering, they will no longer smile in 2023.
Right, okay. Well, let's move away from the Donyi Okupe debacle. Let's look at the other issues in this election period, because the campaign is about to reach its peak, probably immediately after the Christmas and New Year break. Where do you see things standing at the moment with the Labour Party's presidential campaign and the people?
This brighter. I was personally involved. When we went to Benin City, it was locked down, it was shut down. And do you know the funny thing? None of those people is bought. Do you know the next funny thing? They will wait from morning till night before His Excellency reached the venue in Benin City. It was already night, visibly dark, but they were still there, yearning to catch a glimpse of him. When we went away, shut down. Aba, shut down. Unuyo, oh my goodness. In Uyo, the PDP presidential candidate kicked off his campaign and they were singing Obi Kererenke right in front of him. Whether you talk about South-South, whether you talk about North-Central, whether you talk about South-East, they are all locked down for Obi. North-West, North-East are moving graciously towards him. The youths, the aged, who would not move towards him? Do you think the North is not tired of being buffeted with kidnapping, terrorism, banditry? Do you think that the North, that has the highest arable land almost around the world, with the largest land mass, and yet they cannot go to their farms to feed their family, do you think they are not tired? They are tired of this leadership. They want a new thing. Obi has promised them security, farmers going back to the farm. He has promised them that they are going to have their own share of the cattle economy, exploration of it, which is in billions of dollars around the world. Promised them Marshall Plan for education, and the other people are feeding them with religion and ethnic jingo, bigotry. I tell you something. Obi is the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because Nigerians are tired of where they are and they want a new thing.
What about the issues of violence and attacks, which the Labour Party appears to have been battered with recently? I mean, how much does that compound your worries going into this ballot?
What do you expect from a party that put as their presidential candidate a man who say fight for power at all costs, snatch it, grab it, run away with it? What do you expect from them? It's unfortunate that in Kaduna State, the governor of Kaduna State, El Rufai, who boasted that he has the first mechanized division of the Nigerian army in Kaduna and other headquarters of paramilitary government, and that he can arrest Peter Obi just because he came into Kaduna State to deliver a speech. That was the only offense he committed. Then he could not arrest the assassins of the women leader, Labour Party women leader, that was assassinated, politically motivated. He could not arrest those people. All the terrorists, kidnappers that have been buffeting Kaduna State, he could not arrest them with all the paraphernalia of military presence which he has publicly boasted he has. But he wants to arrest a man who his only offense is that he's going to be the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's a shame.
Well, to be fair, I don't think it was said in quite that context.
Whatever context you want to interpret it in,
you've got to put it in a much more politicized context.
You know what? You should understand that APC has been very incoherent in everything they are doing. Even the interpreters of sign language can no longer interpret the words of their presidential candidate. So whatever it is, whenever a man is talking, I have the right to interpret it in whatever context I choose. The people that have assassinated the Labour Party women leader in Kaduna State, if you don't, you can't end impunity. Now, look at assassinations. After that, 20 people were just killed in almost the same local government that the women leader was assassinated in Kaduna State. Nothing. The APC government has failed, both at the